Now for our third perspective, let's welcome Chelsea Ruby. She's Tourism Secretary of West Virginia, Department of Tourism, and we're going to understand how tourism, resident recruitment, talent recruitment and community development are all blending in the West Virginia of today and of the future. Let's welcome Chelsea.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I want to give a huge thanks to the entire DI team and Miles for having us here today, and all of you for staying inside when you could have gone outside. So thank you very, very much. It's interesting to follow Adam because I don't think there are two destinations that could be more opposite than West Virginia and LA, but yet I do think that you're going to see some similarities in how we've evolved as DMOs. So I want to rewind back to early 2020. I was home doing virtual school with a first grader and a preschooler, and I was trying to run a travel organization when we weren't supposed to be traveling. I had a lot of terrible ideas during that time, but let me focus on two. The first one is I told my husband the kids need another puppy. So meet Poppy. She is now a full-grown terror. My second one is I told our really overwhelmed and overworked team at the Department of Tourism that we should start a remote worker program. One of these ideas turned out a lot better than the other, so let me start with that one. So why did I think this was a good time to start a new program? Well, I really believed that the stars were aligning for our teeny tiny state of 1.8 million people. Two things were happening. One, 25% of the US was being told that they could work remotely permanently. At the same time, 2/3 of Americans were saying that they had a greater appreciation for the outdoors than ever before. I really thought the stars were aligning and that the increases we'd seen in tourism would translate to a remote worker program. At about the same time, West Virginia native Brad Smith and his wife Elise gave a transformational donation to West Virginia University. You see, Brad is one of the greatest minds in Silicon Valley. He has been a real superstar there for years. He served as the CEO of Intuit, then was the chairman of the board, and has been the head of a number of other boards for Fortune 100 companies. So in October of 2020, he and his wife, featured here at the top of Seneca Rocks, they gave a $25 million donation to WVU to invest in our state's outdoor economy and start a talent attraction program. So we teamed up. Shortly after, Ascend West Virginia was born. It's a collaborative effort between the Wing to Wing Foundation, his foundation, West Virginia University, and our department. It's very unique. As far as I know, it's the only like organization in the world. So once our partnership was established, we had to decide, how do we make it a statewide talent attraction program? Do we spread out the workers, let them pick where they want to live? That didn't align up with Brad's vision for how to bring them to West Virginia. His vision was to take these like-minded entrepreneurs and put them together in cohorts so that they could form a community where they would truly build a network and put down roots. So then we had to decide which communities. So we came up with a rubric. We looked at housing, we looked at broadband, we looked at outdoor recreation, and we looked at community vibrancy. We picked these 3 pink communities as our first 3 across the state in different regions, but we're also supporting the black dots in other areas, which are other programs in the state. Then, from that minute, we had to decide, what's our pitch? What are we trying to get people to move here for? So if you can please roll the video, we'll take a look.
It's a climb that's been started by so many. A climb taken by those who seek a life less ordinary, who long to break free from the mundane and move to a higher place, one that offers experiences simple and pure. The climb to West Virginia begins with the promise of discovery and ends in a place that feels like home the moment you arrive. There are no crowds or concrete jungles here, just rivers, mountains, and room to put down roots. Our mountain towns are home to some of America's greatest innovators, makers, and downright hard workers who have reached the peak and uncovered our greatest secret, that this is a heavenly place that gives to you more than it takes back. In West Virginia, we live and work just steps away from the landscape that inspires us and unearth new opportunities along every winding trail. Here, we work together to reach new heights and create a life worth living. Ascend West Virginia.
So that's our pitch. That was the video we used to launch. So next up, we had to decide what was our offer going to be. So when we launched, it was in April of 2021. And we had, the offer that we had is first, the remote workers, if they were selected in the program, they would get a $12,000 cash incentive. They would get free outdoor recreation for a year, meaning rock climbing, hiking, biking, camping, scuba diving. It was all on our dime. They would have free access to outdoor recreation equipment. If they wanted a kayak, they could stop by and get it. Access to free co-working space and professional development. You'll see that we did a big tie-in to all the tourism materials. If you've seen any of our tourism ads in recent years, you'll see that this lines up. We were able to layer the ads so that if someone was seeing a tourism ad or an Ascend ad, they were seeing vice versa. We were really targeting someone who wanted to go kayak on their lunch break. They wanted to hike on the weekends. They wanted to go camping. We were looking specifically for city dwellers with no backyards, people who wanted to get into the mountains. Retargeting and working through tourism and working with our tourism, we were able to only spend about $75,000 over the last year and a half. And the retargeting that we did allows us to really get in and look for specific people. We weren't casting a huge wide net. So we were targeting people who were remote workers, people who like the outdoors, that was our niche, and people who were familiar with West Virginia or were in our target markets. Other ways we were able to keep our costs down is we worked really hard on public relations. We've had over 1,400 pieces of coverage in major publications. The results have been phenomenal. So we had 50 spots in Morgantown with our first opening, 25 in the Greenbrier Valley, so 75 total. For those 75 spots, we got about 14,000 applications. It came from all 50 states and more than 80 countries, which put us at an acceptance rate of less than 1%. That was a lot of applications. Our goal was 500. So then we had to regroup and figure out what do we do with all these applications. So we developed a data-driven model that would go ahead and score these for us. Then we did group interviews with the finalists. Then we teamed up with Airbnb so that we could, once we invited someone to the program, we could give them a voucher, let them try out the city, make sure that they liked it, it was a place they could call home, and we provided concierge moving assistance. We've done everything from find tutors, get the right restaurants, everything together to make sure that we were getting them into their new homes. So our first group, I'm proud to report, 75 new West Virginians are now in the mountains. They represent about 143 people, so many of them brought spouses, partners, children, friends with them. Of those 75, about 20% had a tie to West Virginia, so they got to come home, and the other 80 were people who had no connection to the state. So here's just a look at our residents. They are very, very involved and committed. I don't think there's been a more rewarding project that I've done than this one. They love their community. They go on hikes. They go biking. This weekend, they're doing a climbing workshop to teach other ones who don't know how to climb. They're very involved in the community. I see them at the Capitol. I saw that one was recently sworn in on her local board of health. It's been amazing watching them fall in love with our home. So you might be wondering what happened to the other 13,000 people. I didn't want to say no. The team thought that that was a bad idea, and our founder, Brad Smith, said, we're going to create the West Virginia No. So we teamed up with Rocket Mortgage. And what we did is those who weren't selected into the program got that West Virginia no. And what it was a personalized package that told them that we still wanted to invite them to West Virginia, a letter from the governor, a letter from Brad and Elise, and $3,800 off their mortgage from Rocket if they wanted to go ahead and move. The last thing that was included in that packet is we gave them a package of West Virginia wildflower seeds and told them to plant their own piece of Almost Heaven where they live then. The great news is some of those people have moved, and so I'm gonna start adding them into that 143 as new residents to West Virginia. Just a couple key takeaways. The first one is that by coordinating with tourism, we were able to keep our costs down and keep the quality of the advertising up. It wasn't low value production that we were doing. Everything looked very, very professional. The second thing is that our niche approach really allowed us to target people who wanted that experience. We were only targeting people who loved the outdoors and would love living in the mountains. Third thing is our team gave the best personalized attention. Like I mentioned, we go and help kids get enrolled in schools. We show up when they're there, moving in with the moving truck to greet them. And I think it's created a very tight-knit community of these folks and has made them really love their new communities. Last but not least, the halo effect. We've seen it in our most recent research, but this has improved not only the state's perception to the outside world as a place to live, but also a place to do business, a place to live as a remote worker, and just overall impression of West Virginia. So again, I would consider this a huge win from COVID. This one's my big loser. Poppy is free to a good home, but you probably have to fight my kids because they like her a lot more than I do. So thank you so much.